In the peaceful town of Clearwater Ridge, the days drifted by in a comfortable routine. People strolled down tree-lined streets. Lawns were neatly kept, and neighbors exchanged pleasantries over the fence. But behind the weathered walls of one house, a storm was quietly brewing, a storm that would soon change everything for one resident. 18-year-old Sam had built a reputation in Clearwater Ridge as a hardworking teen. Every summer, he took up the job of mowing lawns, not only to save up for his future, but to assist his single mother with the growing bills at home. Known for his friendly demeanor and reliability, Sam had built a network of loyal clients. One summer, however, he took on a new job, one that would soon turn his world upside down. The new client, Mr. Harrison, lived in an old, slightly dilapidated house on Maple Street. His yard was overrun with tall weeds, and the house itself looked like it hadn't seen a coat of paint in years. Still, Sam had heard rumors about Mr. Harrison being a reclusive and irritable man, prone to complaining about the smallest of inconveniences. Sam, though, was determined to make the best of it and accepted the job without hesitation when Mr. Harrison offered to pay him to take care of his lawn. The first few days went as expected. Sam arrived early each morning, pushing his lawnmower along the uneven grass, working hard to tidy up the property. He didn't mind the extra effort. It was a good job, and he was eager to earn money. But as the days went on, something about Mr. Harrison's behavior began to change. The once calm neighbor began to bark out sharp instructions from his front porch, getting more demanding with each passing day. One sweltering afternoon, while Sam was finishing up a difficult patch of grass near the fence, Mr. Harrison appeared, his face twisted in frustration. Sam had grown used to the occasional muttered complaint, but this time, Mr. Harrison's anger seemed different. "You're making too much noise," Mr. Harrison shouted, his voice rising. "I can't stand this anymore. You're doing it all wrong, and I'm calling the cops." Sam froze, his heart racing. He had no idea what had triggered such an extreme reaction. He was just doing his job, like he had for the past few days. But before Sam could say anything, Mr. Harrison was already dialing on his phone, his voice seething with irritation. Minutes later, a patrol car rolled up to the curb, its lights flashing. The officers listened patiently as Mr. Harrison ranted about the supposed noise and disruption Sam had caused. Sam, trying to stay calm, explained his side. "I'm just mowing the lawn," Sam said. "I have permission to do this. It's what I was hired for." After a brief conversation and a look around the yard, the officers told Mr. Harrison that his complaint didn't warrant their intervention. They advised him that calling the police for something so minor was a waste of time and resources. With that, they left, and Sam was left feeling both confused and irritated by the unnecessary drama. He didn't think much more of it, hoping things would get back to normal. But it seemed Mr. Harrison's actions had set something much bigger in motion, something Sam couldn't have foreseen. A few days later, as Sam worked on a neighbor's lawn down the street, he noticed a large moving truck parked in front of Mr. Harrison's house. A group of serious-looking officials were walking up to the door, followed by men carrying clipboards and stacks of paperwork. Curious neighbors peeked out from their windows, wondering what was going on. The officials, it turned out, were there to inform Mr. Harrison that his property was being seized. After years of neglecting to pay his taxes and ignoring official warnings, the authorities had decided to repossess the house. The neglected yard and broken-down fence were just the final straw. Mr. Harrison's complaints to the police, especially the incident with Sam, had further damaged his standing in the community. The local authorities had investigated his repeated use of law enforcement for personal grievances, building a case that would finally force him to face the consequences of his actions. As movers packed up Mr. Harrison's belongings, the neighbors gathered, exchanging whispers. No one was surprised by the outcome. After all, Mr. Harrison had always been difficult and confrontational. But nobody expected his bitterness and stubbornness to lead to such a downfall. Sam stood there, watching the moving truck slowly drive away, a mix of disbelief and relief washing over him. He had never intended for any of this to happen. All he had wanted was to do his job, earn a little money, and help his mother. But in the end, it was Mr. Harrison's own toxic behavior, his grudge-fueled actions and refusal to cooperate that had led to his ruin. For Sam, it was a quiet lesson in justice. He hadn't meant for his work to be part of a bigger drama, but it was clear that Mr. Harrison's inability to see past his own bitterness had destroyed him. As the truck pulled out of the neighborhood, Sam caught sight of his mother, standing on their front porch, her face glowing with pride. She had always taught him the importance of doing the right thing. And even though this situation had spiraled in an unexpected way, Sam knew that hard work, respect, and kindness would always be the best approach. As the moving truck disappeared down the street, its presence still felt by everyone in the neighborhood. Sam stood silently, reflecting on what had just unfolded. The events over the past few days had been a whirlwind. What had started as a simple summer job had turned into a dramatic turn of fate. Sam hadn't sought out conflict, nor had he wished harm upon Mr. Harrison. But as he watched the empty house, now devoid of its owner, it was hard to ignore the sense of justice that seemed to linger in the air. The truth was, Sam had always believed that people reap what they sow. His mother, a woman of few words but great wisdom, had instilled in him the value of hard work, kindness, and perseverance. She often told him that life had a way of balancing itself out. In Mr. Harrison's case, it seemed that his constant bitterness and refusal to accept responsibility had caught up with him in the most dramatic way possible. In contrast, Sam's path had been one of quiet determination. Sure, the work was hard, and the hours were long, but every lawn he mowed was a step toward a brighter future. Every dollar he earned was a small victory, a reminder that his efforts would eventually pay off. When he had started mowing lawns as a young teen, it was just a way to make some extra cash. But as the years went by, he began to see it as more than that. It was about building character, helping his family, and proving to himself that he could overcome any obstacle. What happened with Mr. Harrison didn't just teach Sam a lesson about karma. It taught him about the power of community. In Clearwater Ridge, people didn't just live side by side. They helped each other when they could. Whether it was lending a hand to an elderly neighbor or volunteering at the local park, there was a shared understanding that they were all in this together. It was a spirit that Mr. Harrison, with his self-centeredness and disdain for others, had never fully embraced. While Sam worked to make his little corner of the world a better place, Mr. Harrison had isolated himself with his grievances, expecting the world to bend to his will. But as the neighborhood watched Mr. Harrison's downfall, it wasn't just about one man's bad choices. It was about the collective lesson that even small, seemingly insignificant actions could have large consequences. The neighbors who had once quietly avoided Mr. Harrison now had a chance to reflect on how they treated one another. It wasn't lost on Sam that, in a strange way, Mr. Harrison's fate had reminded everyone of the importance of kindness, respect, and accountability. While some might have celebrated Mr. Harrison's departure, Sam couldn't help but feel a quiet sadness. It was a loss, not just for Mr. Harrison, but for the entire community. In the weeks that followed, things slowly returned to normal. Sam kept mowing lawns, but now there was a sense of purpose behind his work. He knew that his actions, his quiet determination, his desire to help, were laying the foundation for a future that was bigger than just a paycheck. He dreamed of college, of building a career, of someday being in a position where he could help others the way he had been helped. And through it all, his mother continued to stand by him. Sam had always admired her strength and her unwavering belief that good things would come to those who worked for them. As he walked home one evening, his mower tucked under his arm, he saw her again on the porch, watching him with that familiar proud smile. Her face was weathered, as much by the struggles they'd faced together as by the passing of time, but there was a quiet pride in her eyes that Sam would never take for granted. The message that lingered in Sam's mind was clear. Success was not about avoiding hard times or trying to control others. It was about choosing the right path, even when it was difficult. It was about doing the right thing, even when it seemed like nobody was watching. It was about trusting that in the end, the truth would always have a way of surfacing, and that sometimes the most unexpected outcomes were the ones that taught us the most.